CJAD time is 7:08. Welcome to today's Entrepreneur, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business. My name is Dan Delmar, along with Fuller Landau's Josh Miller. Josh, how are you?
Dry in the studio, not in any floods. All
yeah,
good.
No one got swept away, so that's a good thing. Traffic, by the way, coming up in 7 minutes. We'll have the latest on the chaos downtown. Joining us in studio now from Mummieslist.com is Marcy Braznik and Antonella Argento. Ladies, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Dan.
So
Hi, Josh.
first, we begin by maybe just telling us a bit about Mummie's List and what it is you guys do.
Mummieslist.com is a loyalty program for moms, and essentially we have what's called a mummy card, and it gives you discounts at over 300 vendors in and around the city. We have a website that also connects mothers, and we have different services on our website that really help moms get involved.
So we have the Mummy Corner, which connects moms with one another. We also have a buy and sell section, which moms could sell their old, children gear, baby gear.
I thought you was going to say sell their children.
We don't want to do that.
No. That would be bad.
And we also have a section called additional promotions, which even though they get the savings every time they use the card, our vendors are able to post on our website additional savings. Let it be 50% off if it's Boxing Day or summer savings.
Now, I know everybody wants to belong. You know, there's moms out there, and for them to feel as if they're part of something is very special. Now, I understand what it does today, but let's turn the clock back a few years. How did Mummieslist.com get started? How did you ladies get into this business?
Mummie's List started as a hobby. Actually, it was a friend of ours that started Mummie's List with music in the park. So basically, it was gathering moms together at a music class with their children. And then we realized that moms have a strong voice, and we make all
the buying decisions
at home.
At home, and so we wanted to take that voice and really bring it to the next level.
So we went out there and got
discounts.
Sorry, ladies, let's have to interrupt. Let's pause for some breaking news right now.
This breaking news.
And Dan, the water main break downtown has finally been capped. There is quite a bit of damage. We see some debris, some stores have been closed, but luckily the flow of water has now stopped. The city says it is turning its attention to cleaning up the mess downtown, spreading some salt because the water is freezing. We'll have more on our next newscast at 7:30, Dan.
When news breaks out, we break in. CJAD 800. Stimulating talk radio.
All right, 7-Eleven, so a little good news there. Finally, they have capped that water main break, so it should get better eventually, but still very icy downtown. And don't forget to send your pictures, your videos, and your stories to yourstory@cjad.com, and we'll put them up on the web this evening and tomorrow. Back with today's entrepreneur, Josh Miller, and our guest, Marcy Braznik and Antonella Argento from Mummieslist.com. And let's continue that conversation right now, talking about the website.
I think we were starting with how did it start, and you said you had a friend that began it. So was it something that was in existence for some time, and then you took it over? Where was the inception?
It was in existence for a couple of years, and we took it over in 2009, about 3 years ago.
Basically, I mean, we should tell them the story of how we met.
Yeah.
And that's when we
really
basically started growing Mummie's List.
So we met at a friend's party, and it was like an antique show, and Antonella was selling, she wasn't selling, sorry, she was giving away mummy cards. It was the end of the year. And I questioned, what was that? I was 9 months pregnant with my third child. And we just got to talking, and we decided that we were a good match. And I started doing some marketing work, and then just became partners. And we took the business now from... At the time, it was about 50 vendors, 400 members, and now we're at 7,000 plus members and over 300 vendors in and around Montreal.
Now, let's just talk, just before we get into the mechanics of it and how it's working, did either of you have a background in either websites or business or marketing or any of the like?
No.
I had a little bit. I had in business, but I was in a totally different industry and nothing to do with advertising, a little bit of marketing, but not advertising. No, we were just two moms that decided we wanted a flexible work environment. We wanted to do our own thing. We liked the idea. We knew it could grow. We saw the potential, and we just ran with it. So,
Was any part of this the fact that you really need? You said flexibility, and I don't know how key that term is, but I imagine if you're raising a family, or when you're raising a family, and your spouse is working a little bit more full time, flexibility is important. Is that key or number one in this type of venture when you got into it?
Definitely. Our days are not typical 9 to 5 working days. Marcy and I are often on the telephone at midnight.
and 5 a.m.
Yeah.
and every weekend and around the clock and in between carpools and whenever we can fit it in, basically. We do work over 40 hours for sure, if not more, as most entrepreneurs do. But it's on our own time. So it doesn't get in the way of picking up our kids from carpool or taking them to a skating lesson. We really try and have balance in our lives, and this was kind of the perfect scenario for us. Plus, we loved the concept.
And we also, the moms that work for us, we also encourage the flexible hours as well. We think it's important as a mom.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk more about that after the break and working from home too, and working around your schedule. Mummieslist.com. Marcy Brasnik and Antonella Argento with us on today's Entrepreneur 7:15 right now. CJAD 800 traffic. It's been a wild evening. Here's Kira Yeager with the latest.
Yes, it has. And due to that water main break, we still have many bus lines not really working right.
7:19 on today's Entrepreneur, inspiring stories from outstanding business people, Dan Delmar and Fuller Landau's Josh Miller, and our guests this evening, Marcy Brasnik and Antonella Argento of Mummieslist.com, a business that you run sort of partially from an office, partially from home. Do you find it difficult to get a lot of work done when you're working from home sometimes?
No, I mean, sometimes we actually get our kids to work for us.
Slave labor.
Volunteerism.
We have our kids stuffing envelopes, and no, it's all time management.
Yeah, exactly. It can be very easy during the day when they're at school. We have a block of hours where, working is easy. And when they're home, it's more difficult, but that's our time with them also. So, you put the kids to bed and you go back to work. You have distractions, but you have distractions really in any work environment. So I don't think it's much different. It's really, it's what appeals to you. Some people don't like working solo. We do. That helps us manage our time better. We can, get up and do what we need to do, errands, wise, and, pick up our kids, but we can, be home when we want to be home, and we can be in the office when we want to be with people.
So let's move away from the labor under 18 and go to the labor over 18. And, you have a team working with you. What's your style in working with them? Is it more of a collaborative nature? Is it more of they're really uncertain on the business, so you really got to say, you do this, you do that, a little bit more dictatorial, for want of a better term? How do you kind of work with them?
Actually, it is collaborative. We have some staff that's been with us
longer than we've been with Mummieslist.
And we're very open to feedback. And we know we have a sales force, and we value their input because they're dealing with the vendors, they're dealing with the members. So it's important for us to listen to what they're telling us.
Is it with the team that you have, do you tend to do things a little ad hoc here and there, or do you have set meetings, regular meetings? It's, running it very regularly versus, picking and choosing here and there where to meet?
I would say it's a little bit of both. I mean, we have monthly sales meetings, and then we have exciting things that come up that we need to call a meeting kind of ad hoc. But it's definitely, we do have a routine, especially with the sales staff. We do have a routine with there's tons of administration. So our administrators are in the office and working quite regularly. Mm-hmm. The whole entire setup is very collaborative. Most of our staff are moms, so they're out there. They have the same kind of, thoughts that we have, and it helps run our business. So.
Was it difficult to find some members of your team? How do you find them?
Word of mouth most of the time. But yes, the answer to your question is yes, it is difficult to find staff, but most of our staff is through people we know.
Yeah, and it's difficult because people look at this business and they think, oh, great, flexible work environment, easy. It's fun, but it's not easy. It's a job and it's work, and some people might not, get that understanding until they're actually in it, and then it's a little bit of a surprise.
But we make it fun.
Yes, we do.
And when you're looking for people, do you specifically recruit people who are moms and who can relate to the brand?
Yes and no.
It's just so happened that most of our sales force are moms. And I think what's appealing to them is the flexible hours. So basically, you could make a sales pitch with your baby in the stroller at the store that you shop at. And we encourage that because basically we're encouraging the mom's voice.
No, well, that's the whole thing. To
Yes,
attract vendors,
exactly.
you want them to know that moms are coming to visit their store. And I think when we come back, it's an interesting aspect is one of the benefits of mummieslist.com, from what I understand, is having enough vendors so that your members can get to enough places, and that's what we'll explore next.
Today's Entrepreneur with our guest Marcy Brasnick and Antonella Argento of mummieslist.com, 723 on CJAD. 726, welcome back to today's Entrepreneur. Our guest Marcy Brasnick and Antonella Argento of mummieslist.com.
Now, we left off touching on vendors. One of the biggest, of course, aspects and one of the biggest drives you have to make in building your business is finding enough vendors so that your members had a lot of access, because who drives who? Is it the number of vendors that bring in your members, or the number of members that attract your vendors? Say that 10 times fast. So how did you find your vendors? Like at the beginning, were there a number of them? You gave some numbers earlier. Maybe you can kind of backtrack a little bit and give us a story of how you collect them.
It's a lot of it is the moms collecting them for us. They walk in the store and they say, hey, you guys don't take the mummy card? What do you mean you don't take the mummy card? I deserve a discount. You guys should take the mummy card. So that happens a lot. And the other side is they don't say anything, the shyer moms, and they email us saying, we'd really like to get a discount at this store. So we'll call up that vendor and we'll say, listen, we got a request. We think this will be great for you guys. And typically when that happens, they go for it. So
now, are these oftentimes cold calls to the vendors? How do you find who the right person to speak to is?
They are. Usually you ask for the manager of the store, or the owner of the store. Sooner or later you get to them. The local stores, the smaller local stores where there's only one of that store, it's much easier. The chains, it's harder. The chains, we cold call. We call and say, who's your director of marketing? And then we get into a conversation and hopefully they listen.
Which we just signed our first national, well, they're an international account, but we signed them nationally.
Now, so sir, is it tough to get your foot in the door, especially in national accounts or larger companies? Do you find they don't necessarily take you seriously?
Well, it's not easy, but we're pretty persistent.
That we can tell.
We use our mom power, like we like to call it. No, we're pretty persistent. We call and we call and we call, and we say, you got to try it. You got to try it. Try in one store, try it in two stores. A lot of the times we hit, some of the national chains are franchise. So we hit the franchisees. We get one on, then we get a second one on, and then a third one. And then we go nationally and we say, hey, we already have this many. You should just, pitch this to all of your stores. And, it's working. It's working.
And if we are having trouble with one particular store that we have many mom requests, we do ask the moms to go in. Like we'll write back to the moms and say, well, go in and mention Mummy's List more often. And then that will probably sway the vendor to
come.
And is it a standard agreement across the board with all vendors? They all have to follow the same terms and conditions?
No, we part of the draw is that we allow the vendors to customize their discount. We do ask for a minimum of 10 to 15% or value of. We have a few vendors that don't offer that, but they have their price range of their goods is a lot higher. So even 5% is a good discount. It just seems to work that way.
It's persistence. It's really, you just got to keep going after them and after them. You're up to how many vendors today?
We have over 300.
And when you first got into the business?
about 50.
So That's pretty good. And you have a sales force on the ground. It's not just the two of you, or
Yes, we
one
have a
of you.
sales force on the ground, and they go into the stores. And a lot of our sales reps that come on, it's because they want the discount. They just really want to get a discount at particular stores. So they try it, they pitch it. It's stores they frequent, and then once they get it, they get into the groove and they start pitching it all over the place.
So when we come back, Dan, I think we'll talk about marketing. Let's look at the other side of the coin. Where do the members come from?
All right, today's Entrepreneur with Marcy Brasnick and Antonella Argento of Mummieslist.com. 7:34 on today's Entrepreneur, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business. My name is Dan Delmar, along with Josh Miller of Fuller Landau. And Josh, our guest this evening from Mummieslist.com, Marcy Brasnick and Antonella Argento.
Now, we were talking about vendors. There's a few different important sides of this business, from what I understand. Getting the vendors, because that's what really drives the membership. Now, how do you go out and get your members? What marketing are you doing? Where are you driving that membership to your website?
We haven't done much informal marketing. We do school fundraisers where we go to the schools and we sell the mummy card, and we give $15 back for every card sold to the school. We also have social media, which we have, a good following both on Facebook and Twitter. And now we just started Pinterest.
Is that something that you've been doing since you guys started,
No.
or really kind of ramped up to there?
We ramped up. I mean, I would say we've only concentrated on social media over the last year, which was probably a little bit late, but it's ramped up pretty quickly, so we're happy with the result. We've done a little bit of guerrilla marketing where we hand out postcards. Our Music in the Park program, which is how Mummy's List started, we continue to do, which is a very inexpensive event that we do all summer long. 15 classes per week. It's $115 for 10 weeks, and you can go to any or all classes with all of your children. 9 or 10 different entertainers, so it doesn't get boring, and it's a place where you meet other moms, and it's all sponsored by Mummy's List.
We also donate a lot of cards to a lot of different fundraisers.
Yeah, galas. And
I guess I was
such.
going to ask, how important is community give back to you? Is that part of what you would call your mission?
It is. It is very important. Actually, every card that we sell, $5 online, goes back to the Montreal Children's Hospital.
We do tend to give cards a lot to different galas and events. They're usually all women or children related to kind of keep with our mission, Mummy's List. Is it a marketing tool? It can be, but it's also because we really believe in it. We do have kids, and we are moms, and we want to be good examples for them and for our communities.
Now, we were talking about, and I think one goes hand in hand with the other. You find many entrepreneurs that want to give back to the community. Certainly it benefits their business, but benefits their hearts, because that's part of their drive as well. And I think one goes hand in hand with the other. It's about planning too. It's about knowing where you're going. A lot of entrepreneurs, and this leads me to the question of business plan. Mm-hmm. When you first started, did you set out a formal plan of how you're going to attack this business?
When we first took over, no, we didn't have a business plan at all. This was all new to us. Today we do have a business plan. We have a focus and we have a vision. So we know where Mummy's List was, where it is today, and where we're going to take it.
How important was that? I mean, what was the turning point to say, you know what, maybe we got to put plans, a little formalization, pen to paper, and say, we got to figure out exactly where we're going and not just ride by the seat of our pants. Was there a kind of an aha moment, or something clicked?
I think that, we've tried different things. It was a work in progress, and some things worked, some things didn't. We started off wanting to be an everything kind of website, and then we realized that it was too much to start. So we really needed to put focus. So yeah, it was a bit of an aha moment, and it was a learning experience. But we got there, and we are focused now. And we do know where we're taking the company.
Mm-hmm. And I think a business plan is important, or at least to have some sort of guidelines, just so you know where to go and what direction to stay focused on.
Part of any business plan, there is, of course, the mission and the marketing and the people. I guess there's also a finance side. How do you manage cash flow? Or maybe I should put it differently in saying, when you first got into this, was managing cash flow an experience that you've had before, and how have you learned how to manage cash flow during the last few years?
We've learned.
Out of necessity, maybe.
I mean, at the beginning, money would come out, money would go out. Money would come in,
Yeah.
money would go out.
Going out twice is a little hard.
Yeah.
So,
But we've done this organically. Like, we have not gotten any investors involved. We've really been able to stand on 2 feet, and the business has grown.
Have you ever been tempted to say, you know what, if we had X amount more dollars, we can make so much more out of it?
Yes, and we do have plans in the future that we'll keep to ourselves for now. But we are tempted. But right now, the way it's running well. So
Now, you've been in business for a few years. You've each come into the business with different backgrounds, I presume, different strengths, maybe different weaknesses. Do you complement each other? How do you determine the roles, like who's responsible for what? Was that clear from the get-go?
I wouldn't say it was clear. I mean, I think we overlap a lot. I mean, I would say that I'm more of the tech side person. I manage the sales staff. I'm more sales. And Antonella is more of the organizational side, and she manages the administration and social media and communication, I should say, to our members is probably both, a little bit of both of us. Marketing, we make decisions on together. Finance, Antonella works on it a little more than I do, but we still bounce things off of each other. So it's pretty balanced.
it kind of just
goes.
fell natural, like whatever.
And naturally, you always agree with one another.
We do.
Most of the time.
What happens in the some disagreements? How do you deal with that? I mean, looking at the two of you now, it doesn't appear that there's really difficulty in dealing with any type of conflict. But how do you deal when you disagree?
I think we just talk it out. I mean, we're both pretty passionate about the business. And, some parts of it I'm more passionate about, some parts of it Antonella's. And in those cases, we kind of defer to each other. Like, you believe in it more, you do it. But no, I mean, we bounce things off sometimes our husbands, and, they'll help us, talk through it or help us see the other side of things. But really, like, it doesn't even get that far.
The truth is we hardly argue about work. We argue about other stuff.
What about in terms of your team? Do you consult them to get ideas for the business?
We do. Actually, we're having a meeting tomorrow. We're brainstorming for our future newsletters and social media. But yes, we do rely on our sales staff and our team a lot.
And tell us a bit about social media too, because that's something that's increasingly important. How much of your energy gets focused into Facebook and Twitter and now Pinterest?
Well, we do have someone as part of our team that focuses on social media for us, and she really guides us. But we do have our own ideas, our own stories. We kind of throw at her and tell her, try and incorporate this somehow. It is a big focus. It's very, very, very important. Most of our moms are very strong on Facebook. We've seen Twitter, not as much. Twitter, we have a lot of vendors, actually, and we get a lot of vendors through Twitter. So it's important from that side of things. Pinterest has really become popular, especially amongst mothers. And we just created our account the other day, and it's already built up a lot. So we see the importance. It's just getting to it all and keeping it there.
You briefly mentioned before kind of about your husbands and their slight involvement in some of this. Do you, bouncing ideas off of or using outside advisors? A lot of time when, Dan and I talk to entrepreneurs, we ask about their mentors and people that kind of help guide them through business. Do you have mentors? Who would you say is probably your best mentor or group or whoever along the way has helped you out?
I think our husbands have helped us out a lot, being that they're both lawyers. So a lot of our legal stuff is done for us.
That's why the girls don't fight, the men fight. They're lawyers.
But I think we also go to friends and other moms.
And vendors, actually.
And vendors.
Vendors that have been with us a long time. We go to them and we say, what do you think of this? Like, is this a good idea? And they'll tell us, no, it's not a good idea. Don't do that. Or yes, it is.
And members as well.
We also do a lot of talking, and that's actually a lesson I learned from Antonella, because she doesn't turn down any kind of interaction. So, if someone calls us and say, I have an idea about this, we call them back and we listen to it. Because some of our best ideas have come through a brainstorming session with just a random person or a random mother.
Have you, I mean, your business is website based. Have you learned a lot from the internet and creating and developing and maintaining a website?
Yes. And we're still learning. There's no perfection. Our website runs.
Where do you learn? Like, is this something you just kind of do on the go?
We do. We read articles, we look at different things, but it's really just, trial and error. Like, we've put together some things, and as you use it, you realize, oh, that doesn't work, or, oh, that really works well. And so we just kind of, go from there.
And now we've learned to ask a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm. And we'll ask more questions, speaking of websites, to Fuller Landau's IT guy, Kevin Ammerman. So we'll talk about e-commerce and all things related to that. 7:49 on today's Entrepreneur, inspiring stories from outstanding business people, Dan Delmar and Josh Miller of Fuller Landau. Our guests this evening, Marcy Brasnick and Antonella Argento from Mummieslist.com. And we also bring into the conversation Kevin Ammerman from Fuller Landau. He is the tech guy over there, and we're going to talk some e-commerce, Josh.
And I think, there's a whole back end to this business. I mean, Mummieslist.com is one of a number of businesses that really rely on a website. It relies on a back end, and their members, their customers, their clients have to have access to this site 24/7. So, Kevin, thank you for joining us. And I guess the kind of question or the challenge to entrepreneurs who have this type of business is, how do they make sure they keep it up and running? How do they make sure there's no downtime?
Well, a lot of entrepreneurs and smaller businesses and growing businesses have done a fantastic job of making sure that their offices or even just their laptops that they do their work from are backed up and taken care of, and they've got a spare computer. But in a lot of cases, they forget that their website might only be hosted on one server sitting in a dark closet at some internet provider. You got to plan ahead a little bit and have contingency plans. Maybe there's a power failure at your ISP. Maybe you're on a bigger system. You're using Amazon or one of these big guys that's got redundancies in place, but they have their bad days too. So you got to make sure that you've got the bases covered and you've got a fallback plan. Now,
It's not just backups or recovery or plans for big business. Small businesses do have some cost-effective plans, don't they?
Yep, and customers expect everybody to have 100% uptime these days. It's not just the big guys that are expected to be there all the time. Your client, if your website is down, you can't tell them you're having problems, so they just assume that you're not there anymore. So you got to make sure that they have a way to know that you're there, that you're responsive, and that you can deliver as promised.
Now, are there any specific types of, do entrepreneurs have to know about hardware and software? Do they outsource? Do they do it in-house? How do they navigate through where, is there anything online they can find?
Unless you're very technically oriented, it's really, really good idea. Once you're getting into e-commerce, to make sure that you've got good professionals helping you out, to make sure that those professionals do have a plan and that they provide you with a way to implement that plan. So if your website goes down at 2 o'clock in the morning, but most of your clients are on another continent, your local technical support might not be available, but you've still got clients calling and asking for help. So you got to make sure that you can deal with that yourself or have people in place that can do it on your behalf.
Marcy, Antonella, do you outsource your back-end part, your website, make sure it's up and running? You do. Is that something you kind of learned from the beginning? It's like, better have somebody to take care of it?
Yes, definitely. And it's hard to find the right person, for sure.
Any challenges in keeping it up? Do customers kind of give you any ideas about any of this keeping things going? Do they complain? Is it monitoring?
Well, it depends. There's clients and there's clients. The businesses usually get the feedback directly from their customers. So it's usually that at that point of sale where the grief comes in. And all too often the information, the feedback you get isn't verbal, but it's in the form of non-sales. You're just not getting the performance that you expect based on the visits that you're getting to the website. So you got to make sure that there's ways that you can sort of read between the lines and make sure that you're getting the information you need to see if people are having problems.
I think, and the message that the entrepreneurs take is make sure you have the right person on the job. Make sure that your site doesn't go down, because it can affect sales. And I think when we come back after the break, we'll talk a little bit about website design and making sure it looks as well as it works.
And of course, the one piece of advice the mummies have for today's entrepreneur. 7:54 remaining moments on today's entrepreneur with Marcy Brasnick and Antonella Argento of Mummieslist.com and Kevin Ammerman from Fuller Landau in charge of IT stuff there. And we're talking e-commerce, Josh.
And we were talking about the backup and the servers, and to make sure that your site doesn't go down, because customers, they can't have a site going down, otherwise they might not come back. That's one part of it. Another part of it, of course, is how does a site work? How does it look? How is it designed? Any guidance on that, Kevin?
What I've heard from a lot of smaller businesses is that flexibility is key. So it's not uncommon for companies to go through a number of iterations of their website to have to develop it and redevelop it over and over again. But to try and make that as painless as possible, to get on a flexible platform, to make sure that if you have to make changes, be they big or small, that you have the capability to do that quickly and without too much additional expense in the design.
Ladies, have you gone through changes in your website design, its functionality?
We've actually redesigned our website twice, and
We still have issues with its functionality and design. We've also learned from a business perspective what's more important to show on your website and what's less, what goes above the fold and below the fold, which is a learning process, and it is very expensive. And actually, if we would have met Kevin before, we would have had a little better advice, because our backend system is custom, not a flexible system, so it is quite costly every time we want to make a change. It had to be kind of custom because of the way our business works. But if we were a little more, versed in websites, then we may not have gone that route, and it might have been easier to change some of the things sooner than later.
Who do you solicit to help improve the functionality of your site? Is it just based on your own use and knowledge? Do you kind of use any of your vendors or customers or sales team?
Moms are very vocal.
yes, yes.
They tell us when something doesn't work,
Yes,
over and over.
And also, when we designed our website, we thought of certain things, but then once you start using something, then you realize, oh, we forgot about this and we forgot about that. So
yeah, it's a function of both. We get our community telling us, and then we also get our team and just us. Things annoy us, daily, and we're like, we need to fix that.
Yeah.
But it goes on a list of things that we need to
And
do.
you're vocal too.
yes.
Kevin, has technology changed drastically in the last 3, 5, 7 years to either help make web design a little easier, functionality?
I think the technology's changed in that it's a little bit more flexible now. People can try things out and revert the changes quicker and deal with those kind of changes. But it really comes down to the design and the functionality of the site. And that really hasn't changed in a long time. People have always expected sort of the same experience when it comes to especially shopping online. And the technology, yes, has evolved a little bit, but it's the design that really drives that technology.
How about creating your own site? Simple business starting up. There are places to go that they can just create their own site. They don't have to rely on a professional, if you want to keep it simple, of course.
If it's very, very simple, yes, for sure. It is a very much a get what you pay for kind of environment. There are lots of free sites out there, free blogging sites and things like this. But if you're trying to do business online, if you're actually trying to buy and sell things online, you got to invest a little bit of time and money in it.
And certainly it sounds like, based from, Kevin, your comments, and Antonella and Marcy, your experience is certainly in redesigning, relooking at it a couple of times, that you really have to invest the time and effort and energy to make sure things are working, and things are working constantly. So as we come to the end of the show, kind of turn to Marcy and or Antonella and ask them our favorite question. What piece of advice would you give to today's entrepreneur?
Want to start?
Go ahead.
Well, I would say to believe in yourself and your product, and to stay focused
and be quite passionate. You really need to showcase that to your audience, because if you believe, and then everybody else will. So,
and find a partner who will finish each other's sentences.
Exactly.
And not necessarily marry a couple of lawyers that will help figure everything out.
Doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt. Dan, I'll tell you the one takeaway I get, and I know we've heard it before, but it certainly bears repeating as we hear the story of finding the vendors and making sure the moms and the clients come on board, is perseverance, is keep hitting the pavement, keep going, pushing your team, pushing yourself, knocking on doors. The right reason is there. As it was said here, be passionate, believe in yourself, and believe in your product. And as long as you have that and you keep pushing, success will certainly follow.
All right. Thanks, Josh. Thanks to Marcia Brasnick and Antonella Argento from Mummieslist.com and Kevin Ammerman, IT specialist at Fuller Landau. Thanks, everyone, for participating tonight.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for
Dan.
having us.
Don't forget, you can reach Fuller Landau during business hours at 514-875-2865 or visit www.flmontreal.com. Josh, we're back in 2 weeks from tonight. A week from Monday, 7 p.m. here on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.